Hey guys, so epic things are finally happening now. Hi guys, thank you so much for being here. My name is Felicia from SweetGeorgia, and this is Taking Back Friday. This is a place where we come every Friday and we talk about knitting and spinning and weaving and dyeing and all sorts of things about the fiber arts. Now, if you've been following this vlog for some time, since January, I've been talking about this project that I've been wanting to work on, and it's called the Epic Cloth Project. The whole impetus behind this project is that October every year is Slow Cloth Month. It's slow cloth, slow clothes, slow fashion. So basically the whole idea is that in October, we celebrate this idea of slow cloth, that things take a long time to make, that we want to get away from this idea of sort of disposable clothes, disposable fashion, going in one day, buying the sweater that's on the rack, wearing it for 2 weeks, and then coming back to the mall next week and then finding something else to wear. So we want to get away from that. A lot of what we're doing here with knitting, forming each stitch individually, spinning the yarn that goes into the sweater, or spinning the yarn, carding the fiber, whatever, in order to make the cloth that makes the final project. That's the kind of process that we're celebrating here. So in January, I decided that I wanted to finally make steps towards making this thing that has been at the back of my mind for many years now. And I have always sort of wanted to make steps towards it, but never actually done it, because the whole idea of making this cloth, which is to hand dye something and then hand weave it and make this whole thing, that whole process was very overwhelming for me. It was very daunting for me. The process just seemed overwhelmingly complicated. So Epic Cloth was about breaking up all of the steps of that project from beginning to end and splitting it up over 9 months so that it could become doable. So my project that I'm trying to work on is I want to make a warp-faced weaving. So warp face meaning that the warp threads are very close together and the weft thread is less prominent. So the colors that going into the warp will be more important. I wanted to dye this by hand, and then I wanted to put it on the loom, and I wanted to weave it, and then I wanted to make it eventually into some kind of a wall hanging or wall art or something like that. So this has been on my mind for some time now. And you can see that it is now July. We have July, August, September. We have 3 more months left. And my yarn is still white. This has been a problem. I've discovered that in the process of doing this slow cloth project, so much of what is keeping me back, what's holding me back, is the decision-making process, is making decisions about what to do. It's not even decisions about what color. It's been decisions about what kind of yarn to use, what kind of set to use, what kind of fabric do I want to make? Does it need to be thin or does it need to be thicker? Like, so many decisions. It's the decision making, I think, that really paralyzes me in this case. Now, one of the challenges that I've also put upon myself this year is that I made a deal with a couple of other girls. We all decided not to acquire any new yarn this year. The whole goal was to basically go through our stash and use what is available, use what we already have. And so I had this one cone of this beautiful mercerized cotton yarn. It's 10/2, it's a little bit bleached, so it's quite white, and it's a fine cotton yarn. Mercerization is basically a process that makes the yarn a little bit more shiny, a little bit more silky looking. And so after doing some dyeing with both the unmercerized and mercerized versions of cotton, I've decided that I really want to work with the shiny one. I like the shiny yarn. Now, the challenge there is that I only have this one cone. The cone is 4,200 yards. And in order to make this big, giant piece that I wanted, I was always going to need more yardage for that. So over the past couple of months, I've just been working it with my spreadsheet, massaging the numbers, trying to maximize the use of this one yarn. So after talking it through with my girlfriends about what I should do about this, what I should do about only having this much yarn, I think I came to the conclusion, with their help, that the best thing to do would be to take this yarn, to dye it and to weave it and to make a smaller piece, to make kind of like a sampler, like a precursor to my epic piece, right? So basically use this yarn and actually dye it, actually weave it so that I can see, do I like the fabric at the end of the day? Because I haven't actually done any samples. This would be my sample, is to work with this one cone. And then if it all works out, then next year, when I don't have the yarn ban, then I can go out and buy whatever yarn I need in order to make this. So that is one course of action. So that was great. Deciding that was great because now I can move on. So the big thing about this is that I basically have to wind a warp that is 690 ends wide. So that is almost 700 individual strands of yarn that will need to be wound and threaded through the loom and all of these kinds of things. So in order to make this a little bit more efficient, I thought what I would do is I would pre-wind all of that yarn onto these weaving storage bobbins. Then I'm gonna hold, there's one more, I dropped it on the floor, but I would hold one strand of each one of these bobbins, hold them together, and then wind my warp in a bundle of 6 strands at one time. So that will make it go a little bit easier, a little bit faster. So 690 divided by 6 is 130, something like that. So if I do that on the warping board, I make my warp, then I can put it onto this loom. Now, the back of this spring loom already has a reed built into it. And a reed is basically something that just holds all of your warp at the right width. It spreads out all of your warp ends at the right width so that you can sort of dress the loom and wind all that yarn onto the back beam in order to be woven. So the way that this reed is set up is that there are 5 spaces per 1 inch. And so that's the reason why I decided to use 6 strands. So 6 strands will go through each gap. And so 6 times 5 is going to be 30. And so this is going to be set at 30 ends per inch. I know there's so much math involved, right? Now, the other thing is that I'm going to be dyeing later on today. I'm going to be dyeing more things for the Fiber Reactive Dye course for the School of Sweet Georgia. So the other thing that I'm winding right now is I'm winding warps of cotton, 100% cotton. It's 8/4 cotton, unmercerized. And so 8/4 cotton is kind of like a fingering weight cotton. It's kind of a good weight for making dish towels or dish drying towels. Just it's a little bit thicker. And so what I was going to do there was I'm going to wind all these warps and I'm going to dye them in the Fiber Reactive Dye course. So now because this warp is going to be going through a different rattle, this rattle is going to be one that has gaps that are 1/2 inch wide. So 1/2 inch, and I want this dish towel to be 10 ends per inch. That means that in each one of those 1/2 inch gaps, I can put 5 ends, 5 warp ends. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm holding together 5 ends of the cotton and I'm winding a warp with 5 ends. So each one of those bundles of 5 are going to be slipped into the gap of the rattle, and then that's what I'm going to use to wind onto the loom later on. So there's going to be a lot of yarn winding today and a lot of dyeing today. That's what's happening today. But this is great because I feel like once the color is on the yarn, then I am hands-free. I can start to actually sit at the loom and get these things done. I enjoy this whole process. I enjoy dyeing the yarn, winding the warps, putting the color on, dressing the loom. I love all of those steps. The one step that I don't enjoy is the decision-making process. I feel like I make so many decisions in my life in general that I just don't have any more brain cells to rub together to make those decisions about what I'm making. And so a part of that is, trying to carve out space in order for you to have that creative time to think, to be by yourself, to just rest your brain so that you can make decisions about what you're actually making. But But I feel very strongly that the more and more weaving I do, the more and more dyeing and then weaving I do, the more and more I'm going to become familiar with what weights of yarn I like, what kinds of yarn I like, what kind of dyeing I like, so that when I go to make another project, I have so much more experience to lean on. And I don't have to make a whole bunch of considerations about other things. I will know better exactly what I want to be making, what exactly I want to be doing. So I feel like the more and more I do this, the easier it's going to get. So yes, it's July, it's 3 months, 4 months away from October, when hopefully this epic slow cloth project will come to fruition. I feel like the greatest challenge so far has just been about decision making. I wonder if you guys are making a big epic cloth project this year, if you're making a big project that just you wouldn't have imagined being able to make. I wonder how you get through this process of making the decisions, of, getting over this paralysis by overanalysis or whatever it is. How do you get through this first chunk to the actual physical act of making things? I think once we start physically doing the actions of making the cloth, everything just falls into place. But it's this first section that's taken 6 months of just thinking. Yeah, I gotta think faster. So let me know down in the comments how you guys are going about your big projects, if you're making anything big, or if you ever have challenges with trying to make decisions about what to make as well. I would love to hear from you and what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. If you like this one, please hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more content like this, please do hit subscribe. I cannot believe that we recently hit 15,000 subscribers. It's amazing. Thank you guys so much for coming to watch these videos every week, to listen to me talk about yarn and fiber and weaving and all these kinds of things. Thank you guys so much for being here. It is so cool that there is now more and more of this community of people who enjoy doing all of the different crafts, like to go and be this multi-craft jewel maker. Thank you guys so much for being here. So my Novelli sweater is almost done. I'll wear it in the next video. Okay, see you guys in the next one.